Hey there, gangland enthusiasts. Today we're diving deep into the dark underbelly of LA's criminal underworld. You may recall the words of Macbeth, "Blood will have blood." But we doubt even Shakespeare could have envisioned the twisted saga of brotherhood, brutality, and violence that epitomizes the infamous Bloods gang. Buckle up as we unravel the intriguing yet disturbing life of a Bloods gang member. Bloods gang origin. Established in the midst of racial tension and rampant gang violence, the Bloods came into existence primarily as a street gang of African Americans. Their roots trace back to the turbulent decade of the 60s, a time when cities like LA were becoming hotbeds of social unrest and criminal activity. This gang, now known worldwide for its menacing reputation, was initially formed as a reactionary force against their equally notorious rivals, the Crips. Their creation story is no romantic tale of rebellion, but a harsh narrative that mirrors the gritty reality of the LA streets they hail from. In those early years, two men, Sylvester Scott and Benson Owens, found themselves pushed to the brink. Often referred to as the OGs or original gangsters, Scott and Owens found their lives and communities increasingly threatened by the brutal and indiscriminate violence inflicted by the Crips. Tired of living in fear, Scott and Owens made a bold decision. They would not cower under the reign of terror that the Crips imposed on their communities. Instead, they would fight fire with fire, resisting the oppressive force of their rivals. This resolve sparked the formation of the Bloods, a collective built with the singular aim of counteracting the Crips' strongholds. Little did they know at the time, this decision would birth one of the most formidable gangs in the annals of American street gang history. Bloods versus Crips. This rivalry was no simple feud, no playground tussle. It was a brutal conflict born out of escalating violence and dire necessity. This notorious rivalry reached a tipping point when the Crips cruelly and callously beat a Bloods member to death. The bone of contention, a mere leather jacket. The shock and horror of this event triggered a sense of urgency and resolve within the Bloods. The stakes had never been clearer or higher. This was not just about territorial disputes or street credibility anymore. It was about survival, about standing up against oppression and unwarranted violence. The Bloods expanded rapidly in response, cementing themselves as a force to be reckoned with. What had initially begun as a loose alliance against a common foe solidified into a united front. The Bloods became more than a gang. They were a brotherhood formed in the crucible of violence, a collective committed to resisting the iron grip of the Crips. Rise of the Bloods. Yet, the shift from protectors to predators came at a devastating cost. The Bloods, fueled by their desire to rival the Crips, turned to a dangerous ally, the drug trade. The bustling streets of LA became their marketplace, crack cocaine their commodity. This shift wasn't merely about survival or dominance, it was a ruthless, high-stakes bid for absolute power. Their involvement in the drug trade was like a rocket propelling them to unimaginable heights. The financial windfall from this illicit trade fueled their rapid expansion, turning the Bloods from a local gang into a national terror, the formidable United Blood Nation. The city's dark corners became flooded with their red insignia, marking their rise as they spiraled further into the abyss of criminality. In this dramatic transformation, their original mission to combat the Crips' tyranny was eclipsed by their own descent into a violent reign of terror. Joining the Bloods. Recruitment into the Bloods is a story as old as time, yet its impact is as devastating today as it was when the gang was formed. Predominantly targeting vulnerable African American boys from marginalized communities, the Bloods seduced these youngsters with a promise of the unattainable, a quick path to wealth, a sense of belonging, and a flashy lifestyle that's a far cry from their harsh realities. But, like a moth drawn to a flame, the allure is deceptive. The Bloods aren't merely offering a ticket out of poverty, they're dangling a poisoned chalice. This illusory brotherhood comes with a high cost. It's a life punctuated by violence, a constant dance with death, and a ticket to the revolving door of the criminal justice system. This easy money is tainted by blood and tears gained through dangerous activities like drug trafficking and violent altercations. The flashy lifestyle, it's a facade hiding a grim reality of incarceration, addiction, and often an untimely death. Treatment of women. Sadly, the Bloods' ascent to power has also been marked by a dismal disregard for women's rights. The gang's patriarchal structure often places women in perilous roles, reducing them to disposable instruments in the pursuit of power and profit. They are dehumanized, treated as drug mules, forced into sex work, and made to carry weapons. These women are typically entrapped in a vicious cycle of exploitation, their bodies treated as commodities for the gang's gain. Their rights, dignity, and personal safety are often trampled upon without a second thought. Stripped of agency, they're caught in the ruthless undercurrents of gang life, their personal stories fading into the background as they bear the brunt of the gang's illicit activities. This disheartening reality paints a stark contrast to the ideals of brotherhood and protection originally proclaimed by the Bloods. Celebrity connection. Believe it or not, even the sparkling world of stardom isn't immune to the Bloods' influence. Case in point, Lil Wayne, one of hip-hop's most recognized names, has been rumored to maintain secretive ties with this gang. While he's been relatively covert about his affiliations, certain street whispers and an infamous altercation with a Crips member lend credence to these speculations. On the other hand, we have Tekashi 6ix9ine, who isn't just associated with the Bloods, but has openly confessed his allegiance to the 9 Trey gangster Bloods. His court testimonies, fraught with accounts of gang-related racketeering and firearm charges, have underscored his deep-seated ties with the gang. And it doesn't stop there. Cardi B, one of the rap industry's leading ladies, has openly embraced her connections to the Bloods. She's not shy about her past, admitting to having been deeply entrenched in the gang's world since her sweet 16. Through these celebrities, the ripple effect of the Bloods extends far beyond the streets of LA, permeating even the glossy veneer of the music industry. Life as a Bloods member. The life of a Bloods member is anything but glamorous. It's a world consumed by drug abuse, violence, and heart-wrenching desperation. Let's take a closer look at the grim reality of a Bloods member's life through the lens of Loco's personal experience. Loco's haunting account shines a light on the dangerous consequences of drug addiction, crystal meth specifically. His sobering stories of friends lost to addiction paint a stark contrast to the gang's allure of wealth and power, highlighting a destructive cycle that feeds the pockets of the rich, while the poor spiral further into addiction and despair. Gangland tales may be gripping, but they're also a stark reminder of the harsh realities faced by many people in our society. By sharing these stories, we aim to raise awareness and spark conversations about solutions for these deeply entrenched problems. Knowledge is power, and awareness is the first step to initiating change. The sad reality we've uncovered today serves as a stark reminder of the far-reaching consequences of the violent cycle that gangs propagate. However, it's important to understand that these individuals are often a product of circumstances, and without the right interventions and opportunities, the vicious cycle continues. As we wrap up our exploration of the Bloods gang, it's critical to remember that these narratives are not just distant tales from some underworld. They are real stories from our communities, tales of lives that could have taken a different turn with the right support and opportunities. We hope that by shedding light on these stories, we can spark a conversation about what needs to be done to break this cycle. Awareness is our first step towards a brighter and safer future for all. Remember, the end of such stories starts with us. Thanks for joining us, and stay tuned for more eye-opening discussions.